Hi, this is Andrew Bridgewater, Chartered Psychologist, with a special bonus session for the Mood and Food course. So, I've been talking about food and how it can have a really beneficial impact on your both short and long term mood, and particularly helping with stress, anxiety, and depression. And I don't think a course like this would be complete without a session on psychology. After all, one of the reasons I qualified as a psychologist in 2005 was to try and find some answers to my long term complex stress, depression, and anxiety. They were things that I'd suffered with for pretty much all of my life at regular intervals, about every 10, 15 years when life seemed to get tough. But unfortunately, my formal studies in psychology didn't provide the answers I was looking for. And within a year, as I mentioned earlier in the course, I found myself in a psychiatric hospital for 5 weeks. That was in 2006. And that was a real awakening moment in my life. I realised that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life repeating this pattern of stress, anxiety, and depression when life seemed to get tough. And so I not only started searching for what could be done to mitigate and improve the conditions through lifestyle and food, but I started casting around at some of the psychological avenues. And believe me, I tried everything. I tried cognitive behavioral therapy, I tried positive thinking, I tried affirmations, I tried neuro linguistic programming to the extent that I actually paid for an expensive 1 week certification course in London back in 2005 in an attempt to, quotes, fix myself. That didn't work. And as I say, within a year, I was at the lowest ebb I'd ever been. And then none of those approaches were consistently effective. They may have provided me with a little bit of short-term respite, but none of them were effective, and none stopped me from tipping into a very severe episode, as I say, which put me into hospital. Then in 2012, somebody pushed a book into my hand. The book was called The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neill. And this was a friend who knew about my story. Up to that point in 2012, I hadn't shared any of my story publicly. I was too humiliated and embarrassed, especially as a psychologist. But I read Michael Neill's book, The Inside Out Revolution, and something spoke to me. I probably only got about 20% of the message, but that was kind of a starting point for me. And over the next couple of years, strangely, people kept suggesting I read certain books in the same field. Now, the field that I'm referring to is called the field of the three principles. It's sometimes called psychology of mind, or health realization, or innate health. A number of labels, and basically the approach was brought to the world through a gentleman called Sidney Banks, who had what can best be described as a significant awakening experience, enlightenment experience in 1973. And he discovered or uncovered how we experience life, how we create our experience of life through three fundamental principles, which he calls mind, consciousness, and thought. Mind is the universal energy behind life. It's what causes oak trees to grow from acorns. It causes scabs to heal, the seasons to change, night to become day, the planets not to collide. We live in a universe. There are so many synchronicities. They're not coincidental. There is a universal energy behind life. Call it what you will. Some people call it God. Some people call it Buddha. There are various other descriptions. Consciousness is the second fundamental principle brought to life by Sidney Banks. Consciousness is our ability to experience life. So it's consciousness that's allowing you to listen to and hopefully make some sense of my words right now. And finally, thought. Thought is the creative principle. It's what allows us to bring the world to life. We can't experience life other than through our thinking. And we're always living in the feeling of our thinking. Your feelings are a direct barometer of your thinking. Now, that might sound really obvious, but it's actually a very profound point. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't immediately get the benefits from the three principles is that I tried to study them as one might try to study for an exam. So I read as many books I could find and started to try and memorize what the principles meant, what mind meant, what consciousness meant, and what thought meant. That got me into a hole. What I would suggest you do with this is listen for the feeling. Don't try and understand these intellectually. It's like trying to understand electricity intellectually if you're not a physicist or an electrician. It's going to be difficult to fathom out, but you can still enjoy the benefits. And it's the same with gravity. You don't have to know how gravity works to benefit from it or to avoid falling prey to it by falling off a large building. And therefore, I'd urge you just to kind of live with the feeling, and you can find out more and deepen your understanding of these three principles through the resources that I'm going to provide you with in the link to this lesson. So I'll give you some links to videos, audios, and also books, which will help to broaden your understanding, give you more of a sense what I'm alluding to here. And such has been my sort of profound awakening through the three principles that I now know for sure that anxiety and depression won't return in my life, having been a feature for about 50 years. And how do I know that? Well, I know that because I now appreciate how I'm creating my own experience of life moment to moment through the power of thought. And it's rather like virtual reality or being in the cinema in a very compelling film. I can enjoy the experience, but I know that it's not real in a totally objective sense, and that I am actually creating it. Now, that takes some getting head around, and I think everybody will have their own personal insights in this area, and that's why I would encourage you to read some more, listen to some more, watch some more. I was so touched by these principles and so profoundly impacted that I was asked to speak at the Three Principles Conference in London this year, and I was fortunate enough to share the stage with Dr. Bill Pettit, the world-renowned psychiatrist, when we were talking about mental health 2.0 and particularly depression. And you can find that lecture recorded on the Three Principles website. And that was a very profound experience for me, and allowed me to share some of my learning and understanding with a large group, together with a renowned psychiatrist, as I say. So all I've really been able to do here in this short video is touch upon the three principles. If you've tried other psychological approaches to dealing with stress, anxiety and depression, and they haven't really delivered for you, as they didn't for me, I would urge you to look into the three principles. Just immerse yourself in it a little bit. Don't try to pass the exam. That won't help. Just live with the feeling. Watch some of the stuff and watch your life change. So any questions or any comments, please do email me, andrew@andrewbridgewater.com. It's been my great pleasure to be your tutor on this course, and I very much hope to get to speak to you personally. Remember, if you haven't already done so, you can apply for a free 30-minute session with me. Just go to andrewbridgewater.com/30 minutes, 30 minutes, and we can speak there. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you personally. Bye-bye.